everybody? Welcome to the Comic Game Movie Show. My name is Deshaun, and today I am here to talk about why Ms.Marvel's powers were changed. Now, this is a huge talking point. It's something I was going to talk about yesterday, but my battery on my camera died, actually. If you're wondering why I didn't get into that in that video, battery on my camera died. But a lot of people are kind of upset about this, and on one hand, I do understand, because I have said before that my opinion on, the accuracy or lack thereof, or how close you should be to a certain style, a certain kind of character. Like I've been going on and on about how I would like a different version, a more fantastical version of Batman. But I acknowledge that the version of Batman that the Batman is, and that the Christopher Nolan movies are, they are Batman. It's like something I would prefer. You know what I mean? I'd prefer a more fantastical Arkham Knight version of Batman. But but the accuracy, but like with characters, certain characters, you want them to be as close to the comic as possible. And I've often said this, that I'm trying to think about it. I've often said that a lot of times I want the first introduction, like the first time we're going to see one of these characters for the first time, like this character's big screen debut, first time ever. I'd like it to be as close to the comics as possible. So that way comic book people can't complain, because well, you got it once. Like, that's the reason I get all upset about the Spider-Man stuff, is I'm like, well, they've done a lot of Spider-Man movies that are super close to, what you guys think is the original Spider-Man, so why are you guys so uppity about the news, like Tom Holland Spider-Man doing different things? I'm like, you've already seen that other Spider-Man. Why do you need to see that? I'm not going to get into that here, but that's just how I feel about it. And admittedly, after some time thinking about it and seeing other people's reactions to the power change and other people's opinion on the power change, I've kind of solidified my thoughts on this even more so. There are two main reasons, at least as far as I'm concerned, that they changed her powers. Maybe three, but two of them I think for sure. First of all, and also I'll get into why she's not an Inhuman, why they changed her origin and powers. So I'll probably put origin and powers. Why Ms.Marvel's origin and powers were changed. First of all, let's start with the origin. Now, in the comics, at the time, 2013, Disney had pretty much decided to not push to kind of not make X-Men comics, but kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Smother them. Like whatever, how many X-Men comics were being made, how many big guys were working on them, they decided to drop that drastically down, because Fox had the X-Men, and since they couldn't use the X-Men in the MCU, and they couldn't promote it on these different, levels, because, if they promoted them at Disney World and whatnot, then they'd just be promoting the X-Men for Fox, so they didn't want to do that. So they decided to make this crazy idea of really getting behind the Inhumans. There were like multiple seasons of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. dedicated to it, and of course there is the god-awful Inhuman show that was gonna be big, that was gonna be an MCU movie, that was stolen from Kevin Feige by Jeff Loeb. So, just so in case you know, that was supposed to be a great live-action movie. It was stolen. But regardless, they really were getting behind it. And then that movie, and then the Inhumans show was so bad that they kind of took a step back from that. Not only was that show terrible, but then a little thing called Disney buying Fox happened, and they got the X-Men back. So even the whole reason that they were pushing the Inhumans in the comics and TV and whatnot, it was like, well, fuck, we don't need to do that anymore because we own the X-Men. So on top of having one reason that they're not doing it is because they have the X-Men back, so they don't really want to, because the Inhumans and the X-Men are very similar in a lot of ways, like the whole random powers and being born different, and some people got cool powers, some people are deformed. Like, the only difference between the Inhumans is how they got around to getting their powers. Because like the X-Men, depending on which comic you're reading, they got their powers because Celestials experimented on humans, putting in a latent DNA, putting in a latent X gene that would only come into being millions of years later when we get to the X-Men. Whereas the Eternals, it's some Kree shit where Kree like experimented on humans and experimented on humans, and when they're exposed to the Terrigen Mist, they go into a cocoon shape and they become. It's kind of random, but depending on which comic you're reading, you become what Attilan, which is the Inhuman Kingdom. I'm getting real nerdy on you. You become Attilan, which is the Inhuman Kingdom on the moon, which is what I wanted, which is like, it's so cool, which is such a cool concept to have this invisible, just big ass kingdom, this invisible kingdom on the moon. That's just a cool idea, so I really want it to happen. But yeah, and the Kingdom of Attilan, that you become whatever the kingdom needs you to be. If the kingdom needs you to be a fucking door, you become a door. If the kingdom needs you to be the most powerful inhuman who ever lived, aka Black Bolt, and be able to destroy entire mountains by just saying, hey yo, boom, a mountain's gone. Black Bolt is so, side note, Black Bolt is so fucking awesome. I love Black Bolt. He's he's one of those characters, like, I mean, years ago, a long time ago, like 2000 and before Civil War happened, years ago, I was always, Black Panther was that character for me, where I was like, Black Panther is so fucking cool. I gotta see him live action. He's gonna be so freaking cool when he finally comes into live action. And the new character for that, for me, is Black Bolt. Because certain characters in the X-Men, Fantastic Four, and things like that, are gonna happen. But Black Bolt, I'm not sure if he's gonna happen, because it looks like they're not going the Inhuman route now. To be fair, they could still be doing it. Like, it could be the case of, that bracelet she's wearing gives her and like unleashes the inhuman powers inside of her. It could be, maybe not, but it could be. But man, Black Bolt's so awesome. Like, I love that concept of his voice. I've never heard anything like that. Like, his voice is so powerful that he's had to train himself not to speak, because if he so much as coughs, he could take out the side of a building, not the whole building, but he could take out the side of a building. Like, if he screams, he can destroy a planet. Like, shit like that. That's so insane to me. That's such a cool superpower. He is such an interesting character. The Inhumans themselves, widespread, are iffy. Or but the actual Inhumans, like the Kingdom and whatnot, like the Kingdom and the players in it, Karnak and whatnot, they are awesome. Medusa, they are cool characters. And like, a part of me is saddened that they're not going to do it, because in the comics, Kamala Khan, aka Ms.Marvel, she's founded by them. They find her and they, guide her, and they're like her superhero guides, and they're like, like her gateway into being in the Inhumans. And, they offer her to come stay with them, but she wants to stay in Jersey City. But the reason that they're not using that origin is clear, because one, they got the X-Men back. Two, the Inhuman show is so bad that, like, it's legendarily bad. The Inhuman show is the worst thing produced by Marvel, period. Studios Entertainment, since they were bought by Disney. It's the worst thing made by them. It's much worse than Iron Fist. So I understand why they wanted to go away from that direction. Also, on top of that, the reason they changed their origin is probably to make it more closely related to Captain Marvel, because in the comics, she's just a Captain Marvel fan, and she takes on the name of Ms. Marvel to honor Captain Marvel, and that's pretty much their relation. There's no real connection between her and Captain Marvel other than that, and then there becomes a connection later, but there's no real connection off the jump. But in the MCU, it seems like with the way that bracelet looked like it was doing, because she has that bracelet in the comics, but it's like a family heirloom in the comics. In the comics, it's like some family heirloom, and she just carries it around she wears it to carry her family, like to honor her family, to carry her family with her. So the idea that that family heirloom gives her abilities does make it, honestly, it makes me intrigued to see the story, because it makes me wonder, what, is this a power that her family has always had? Is this something that she wasn't supposed to find? Is it activated by DNA? Can anyone get this bracelet? Is it the Quasar? Is it Quasars? I think it's called the Nega Bands. I can't remember the name of them. Are they the bands from? What are they? They could be a multitude of things. Are they similar to the rings from Shang-Chi? There's a lot of questions and a lot of intrigue around this subtle change. Not to mention, they're still gonna do a lot of the same shots and a lot of the same iconography, so to speak, for her embiggening abilities. Like I'm sure she's gonna still turn giant. It's just gonna be like this purple glow around her when she turns giant and whatnot. I'm sure they're still gonna do a lot of things from the comics, but like I understand why I could see reasons for why they changed her origins away from the Inhumans. Now her powers, on the other hand, are twofold. There's one reason I know for sure, and another reason that is speculation. One, it's budget. Because I don't know if you guys know this, but doing the whole CGI stretchy thing is really expensive. It's just because, like, it's hard to make that look real. And I've heard some people say before that it's kind of uncanny valley. Like, when you see someone stretching like that, they haven't gotten that down yet to make it look real. And I think you can get by doing the stretchy thing with Mr. Fantastic, which is the second reason. But I think because he's wearing so much clothes, like he has the gloves on and whatnot, that you're not really seeing any skin. It's like, you know what I mean? Like you can buy it, but when you see, but Ms.Marvel has so much skin when she does her stretchy thing, like her hands and stuff. It, like, in a comic, it's not that weird. In a video game, it's not that weird. In animation, it may not be that weird. But I do think it would be kind of freaky looking and kind of weird live action. Not to mention expensive to do. I mean, this show's got about $150 million budget. So, you know, I mean, it's about what, like 20, 25, $30 million an episode? Which is a lot, but even still, doing that it's expensive animation, dude. It's like, because it's like, that's some like Thanos level. Like, you would have to have the same guys who did Thanos, like the same number. They had like 30 production companies working on making Thanos look that good. You would have to have that level of production companies to make that whole embiggening thing look good. So, like, you know, so they decided to go a different direction. Plus, like I said earlier, they were already changing the origins to make it more closely aligned to Captain Marvel by making her powers more cosmic-like. So, and making her, you know, that artifact, you know the bracelet's gonna be something big. You know it's gonna be something big. You know it's gonna tie into something. I wouldn't even be surprised if Wong shows up at the end of this and tells her to come with me, and her bracelet is giving off a beacon too. They might be the new Infinity Stones, these fucking rings in this bracelet. But that's the main reason is budgetary reasons. There'd be a very expensive effect to try to pull off, and they ain't got $200 million. They don't got over $100 million to $200 million to dedicate just to her embiggening effects. And also the obvious is they're gonna have Mr. Fantastic show up soon, and having two people whose abilities look too similar. Now, me and you, the comic book fan, like a Marvel fan, we understand that their abilities aren't exactly the same. Like Mr. Fantastic, for the most part, he is just stretching. She's changing the density and whatnot, and you know, like when she grows her hand, it can block bullets and shit. Like it's not like she's just growing her hand. When she grows her hand, she can punch harder and whatnot, and you know, she can shrink completely down. She can almost control herself on a molecular level, like almost. So she's almost like it's like Molecule Man, except if it was just himself. If he can only affect himself, like she can manipulate herself and whatnot into all kinds of shapes. She can shape shift. She can turn herself into look like someone else. She can change her voice. Like her abilities are they're insane. Which might be another reason they changed their powers, because I'm sitting here thinking about like her powers are kind of OP. Like, she's essentially got the powers of Ant-Man, Mr. Fantastic, and, like, she can shapeshift. Like I said, she can shapeshift. She can grow into a size of, like, you know, an Ant-Man. She can shrink to Ant-Man size. She can grow to Ant-Man size, Giant Man size. Her powers are actually kind of OP, you know, when you really sit back and think about it. But mainly the visual of someone stretching their limbs out, which is the main thing you see her do. They probably want to save that for Mr. Fantastic. They don't want to have any confusion there. They want to have her have a distinct look. I'm curious if that purple glow means anything. You know, you kind of associate that with the Power Stone in the MCU. But anyways, that are my thoughts. That is why they changed the origin and the powers of Ms. Marvel. You know, one, Inhumans was so bad they want to separate themselves from the Inhuman ideal altogether. Two, they got the X-Men back, so they don't need to use the Inhuman origin. So they're like, we're not even going to touch that anymore. That's what the origins. Her powers change because of budgetary reasons. Because one, it would be insanely difficult to make that look good. I know some people don't think that, but it would. It just look creepy and nasty and weird if it's not done perfectly. It would have to be done perfectly, and it would probably take over $150 million alone just to get the people together to do so. So that's budgetary reasons. For money, no. And two, they don't want it. They don't want anyone to be confused between her and Mr. Fantastic's abilities. Anyways, thank you guys for joining the Comic Movie Show. Please like, subscribe. And why do you think Marvel changed her origins and her powers? Comment below. Let me know your best guess, and I will see you guys on the next one. Goodbye.